Hello, tell me, have you ever had a disagreement with anybody about anything in your life? Maybe it was someone who thought something else should happen in the next few weeks or with a certain topic. Maybe you were having this disagreement with your siblings, your teachers, your parents, or your friends even. Well, of course you have, because not anybody on the planet has ever gotten away from having conflict with someone. I'm Laurie Hulse-Moyer, and conflict is something that we all experience throughout our lives. A resident of Rochester, and I took some classes with the Thurston County Dispute Resolution Center about conflict resolution. I live in Grand Mound and I'm a volunteer. I used to work for the Washington State Department of Ecology. Conflict is something we're going to have and that we do have and we all experience throughout our lives. So why am I talking to you about conflict resolution? I am interested in you. Yes, you. So how can I be interested in you if I don't even know you? I'll tell you why. I'm interested in you because you are the future of our society and our world. Now, you might have heard that before, and if you haven't heard this yet, you'll hear it a lot at graduations. I'd like us all to be able to talk to each other and better understand each other and maybe have a less violent world, wouldn't you? Are you with me? So Brian and I thought we'd lay out 5 bullet points with a few descriptive details and some beginning conflict resolution principles. It couldn't hurt to pick up a few things about conflict resolution now to prepare yourself to walk through life. First, I'm going to lay out the components that most conflict resolution processes have. Ideally, in any mediation or conflict resolution discussions, you'll want to have a mediator or facilitator who's trained to guide you and whoever you're in conflict with through the process. Or you'll want someone who you can both trust to fill this role, who can be a neutral party, can stay calm, remain impartial, and use clear, respectful language. In a formal mediation process, the mediator will describe this process. They'll explain they are providing the space for you to find your own solutions. This person is usually one who's an expert in the process but doesn't need to know what the issue is or need the whole history of what's happened before. But probably most importantly to you, they'll tell you that they will not be taking sides. They aren't there to say who's right and wrong. In their role as a mediator, they'll be a positive role model. They might coach you, they might offer encouragement, they might help with brainstorming, and remind people of the ground rules. But they won't give advice, but they'll hold out hope and potentially identify common ground between the two of you. The parties involved must agree to ground rules and commit to keeping an open mind. We need to come into these discussions with positive intentions. We need to assume that the other person has them too. Sometimes this is hard, and sometimes we have to fake it until we make it. But first, both people must acknowledge there's a conflict, and you want to be in the right frame of mind. What calms you down? One way to do this is to practice deep 3-part or circle breathing. We could do a whole class on relaxation techniques and deep breathing. Try a few things you might have heard of and find what works for you, and practice calling that up in stressful situations. Parties can come up with their own ground rules, but at a basic level, both participants must agree to do their best to abide by these rules. In a formal mediation process, clients must sign something that says they'll follow the ground rules, and if you think this might be a problem, you might write them up and have both parties sign it. If either party is not ready, the time isn't right. We can start with a recognition that the other person is a human being, and with just this, we can begin. One definition of respect that the DRC has reads like this: I have faith in my ability and the other person's ability to deal with the matter at hand. In other words, can you trust that the two of you can represent yourselves and come up with a solution? For number 2, can you at least be curious or interested in where the other person is coming from? How do they see it? How did they get to where they are? Can you acknowledge that you have some part in the conflict? And can you access what you feel and need and understand the other person has needs and feelings too? And can you keep your cool even if the other person doesn't? If we can see each other and the other person this way, we can find a measure of respect. Are you mentally ready to engage? One particular state of mind you might want to aspire to is to assume the other person has positive intent. And we can assume this other person has positive intent until we are shown otherwise. If you think it might not be true, another way to think about this is suspend your disbelief. Act as if this is true. Try to offer them unconditional positive regard. This is a term from psychology that essentially requires you to put your personal opinion aside and accept them as they are and believe they are a valuable person. You don't have to particularly like them, but you do need to have some confidence that they have the inner resources to find a way forward for both of you and can be respectful. If you want the other person to offer this to you, you'll need to offer it to them, and you might have to be first. So it's about shifting your mindset. Can you be ready? Remember, other people may not walk through the world and get responded to or see the world in the same way that you do. Think about what you bring to every interaction you have. Your particular perspective or set of experiences differs from others. Sometimes we think we know what the other person is thinking and make up a whole lot of assumptions. We make up a story in our head about what they're thinking, and we think we know what's going on and what other people's motivations or intentions are. One way we can acknowledge our tendency to do this is to say, I may not have this right, but this is what I heard, this is what I made up in my head about it, this is how I felt, this is what would make me feel better. Then give the other person a chance to respond without interrupting him. This is hard. And check with them again that, did I get this right? So try to get to the bottom of what's going on. It's possible there's a misunderstanding that started the conflict. Recognize there are likely underlying issues here about what the problem is. Feelings and emotions are the messengers of what the problem is. What you hear is often only the tip of the iceberg. In the center, between the two of you, is likely some shared goals where you can find some common ground. Each person has interests, needs, and values of their own, many that are likely shared with you. Do some thinking about what the issue is for you. Look below the surface level of just, he or she ticked me off. Get clear on what you're feeling. Perhaps I use statements or I feel statements can be helpful instead of saying you did or you always say this. Maybe they thought, they might say, I felt disrespected when you did or said that thing to me. But sometimes people have a hard time identifying what their feelings are. Look at some of these feelings lists, and that can help you figure out what your actual feelings are. And naming a feeling can sometimes help you understand yourself and may lead to insights on what is at the root of the conflict. And unmet needs that either you or the other person has can lead to conflict. If you don't remember anything else from this presentation, I'd like you to take away this point. Listen to and try to understand the other person's point of view. If you're trying to resolve a conflict with somebody, you'll need to try to identify what's at the root of it. When you get started on the mediation, and after the mediator explains the process and their role, each person gets 5 minutes to explain while they are there from their perspective, and the other person and the mediator reflects back what they heard and checks, did I get that right? Listen for the emotion behind the words and try to name what the other person is feeling. Even if you don't like the words or like the words are using are abrasive, what are their emotions telling you they need? So at this point, your teacher or mentor will pause for a minute to let you soak this in and see if you have any thoughts or questions. And I'll be back shortly. Hello, I'm back. There are various techniques that can improve understanding and help you get to the bottom of things. One of these is active listening. What's active listening? I can share with you what it's not. It's not giving advice, agreeing, fixing the problem, telling your story, or preparing your response, or asking why. Active listening is a skill that can be developed and improved with practice. The Thurston County Dispute Resolution Center describes types of active listening. There's attending, which is nonverbal communication. Decide you want to listen and show it. This can be making eye contact or nodding. Body language is so important. Then they have spacing, matching how the other person is speaking in your responses. If they have a lot of energy, or you match the pace of what they're saying, can help everyone feel more comfortable. Then there's reflecting. Show you heard them by reflecting back some important facts. Again, a checking, did I get that right? And acknowledging to show you get it. That's really awful, or I get what you're saying, is another way of acknowledging what they said. Another powerful tool in nonviolent communication is reframing. And you might see a mediator do this. So reframing is a tool for restating what you heard from a different angle when what is said is very hurtful, blaming, or attacking. So take out the swear words and name the need under the emotion and ask again, did I get this right? So I have an example on the slide. It says, I've got a little dialogue here. It says, these idiots never pick up their towels in the locker room. And you might say to the person who says this, it sounds like you value neatness. And he might say, yeah, but it's not just that. We don't leave a mess when we're finished. And then I might say, it sounds like you value fairness. And he says, yeah, it's not fair we have to clean up after them. And you might move things forward by saying, how might we word our request that they clean up after their session in the locker room? So that's just an example. Again, listen to the emotion and the need behind the words. Reframe what was said in neutral language to reflect back what you heard or to voice your concerns. Another strategy that can be tried is to ask a golden question, or as the DRC says, a handy-dandy mediation question. And one really good one is, what do you most want the other person to understand? Other ones can be, what's your greatest concern? What do you most want to see happen? This is the part, item 3, where you focus on solutions that will help how you interact in the future. Think about what it would take for the two of you to be able to move forward, and how do you get there? Offer up what you're willing to do to resolve the conflict. Be clear if there's an option brought up that is a non-starter for you that you just aren't willing to do. Feelings that aren't acknowledged do get in the way of understanding and finding a solution. So to navigate a solution, you might agree with what's proposed, you might compromise, you might collaborate and come up with something completely new, but be sure you think about that you're willing to act on it. Sometimes it's difficult to identify specific issues. At least get clear on what the other person's perspective is on what happened. Is it a matter of them not feeling respected? Do they not feel heard? Pick one issue you both will work on, even if it's a small part. Find at least one thing that you can agree to try first and commit to it. And most importantly, I think, is to agree to meet again and keep trying if you don't at first succeed, and take a break if you need to. So to review, you need to acknowledge conflict and prepare to discuss it, try to identify the issue, brainstorm possible solutions, identify and pick out one issue you can work on, and agree to actions. Pick something and commit to it, and agree to keep trying to meet again. These are concepts that are just the beginning of understanding the principles of conflict resolution and getting along in the world. You can chart your own destiny by learning about these tools so you can resolve conflicts in your life. And we want your feedback, and I want to thank you for listening. I hope you found some of this helpful. Please provide us with your feedback. I know I'd love to hear what you think about it. If you have questions or want more information on any particular topic or developing these skills, let us know. Remember, knowledge is power and attitude is everything. Thank you.